What's going on, people in internet land? Kimchi Chris here, and welcome to today's brand new episode of Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris. And today, we are looking at Motley Crue, because discussing Motley Crue online right now is red hot. But is that because they are Generation Swine, or perhaps they are toast of the town? Well, we're diving into a subject that probably should be discussed a little bit more right now. And no, we are not talking about people being sued. We're not talking about backing tracks. We're not even talking about Vince Neil's waistline. That's right. Today we are face planting into the idea, should Motley Crue make new music? And before we look to the future, we have to look to the past. And we are not going to go all the way back to the beginning of the band, but we are going to look at some of their more recent output. And since this band hasn't put out a ton of music in recent time, the term recent is very subjective, but let's go back to 2008, their last full-length record, The Saints of Los Angeles. And I'm gonna be honest, I think this record gets some unwarranted hate. I think it's a pretty decent record, and a pretty good record at that, to go out on had they not released anything after it. Because while there were some cringe-worthy moments like Chicks Equal Trouble, come on guys, you're dads now. You need to move on past songs like that. There were a lot of other great songs that also recalled their youth. Songs like Down at the Whiskey, Going Down Swinging, Face Down in the Dirt, a lot of great quality rock and roll music. And since this was supposed to be the original soundtrack to The Dirt, a movie that at the time didn't seem like it was going to happen, I guess it kind of makes sense that this was the subject matter they were delving into, and it worked. It worked pretty well. Is it a perfect record? Certainly not. But is it a bad record? I don't think it's that either. It's definitely an improvement over Generation Swine, and I think you would be hard-pressed to find someone that didn't agree with that take on it. And then after that, Motley Crue toured, they released a few scattered singles here and there, and then they ended Motley Crue forever. Right? Wrong. They came back not too long after that. But in 2019, they came back with a vengeance, releasing the real soundtrack to The Dirt, because the movie finally came out on Netflix to mixed reviews, to say the least. But the soundtrack was here. It was mostly a compilation, but there were a few scattered new songs. The two most notable of those scattered songs would have to be the cover of Madonna's Like a Virgin, as well as the title track itself, The Dirt. Now, Like a Virgin was just boring. Not much else to say. It was a boring cover. It existed. It was somewhere there in space. It's still there. You can go check it out if you really want to. But the title track, The Dirt, it had people talking, mostly for negative reasons. It featured a guest appearance from Machine Gun Kelly. Of course, he was in the movie as well. A lot of people were mad about that. I thought that was a weirdly smart move, since Nikki Sixx is always wanting to make it seem that Motley Crue is not a boomer band and they are actually a young, hip, relevant rock and roll band. And Machine Gun Kelly might be a weird choice for that, since at that point he was still known as more of a rapper, but also he has now kind of jumped into pop punk, and most people that are actually into pop punk hate him doing that. I think a lot of people didn't really like him as a rapper either, but when I say that a lot of people don't like him on either side, the guy is ridiculously successful, a huge artist that years down the line will probably be considered way more of a legitimate musician. I'm not a huge fan of him, but who knows? Maybe in 10 years I'll change my opinion as well. Regardless, this track did get a lot of people talking, and mostly for negative reasons. People didn't love this song that were hardcore Motley Crue fans, but regardless, when they did finally go on the giant stadium tour, they played it every night with a pre-recorded track from MGK, as well as other pre-recorded tracks according to Mick Mars, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So it's part of the Motley Crue history now, for better or worse. And that brings us up to the modern day version of Motley Crue, the Mick Mars-less version of Motley Crue. You know, take a little Mick Mars out, you know, kick him out of your diet, put him on the side, throw a little John 5 in, and that's what you have. Now, John 5 did co-write the 3 new songs on The Dirt, so that gives you an idea of where his writing chops are with a senior Nikki Sixx. And the other members are credited as writers on those 3 tracks. I'm sure Tommy in particular was super excited to have MGK there. It seems like these songs were the works of Nikki and John 5. They are known as songwriters. They've wrote before, so it makes perfect sense here. So that gives you a glimpse into what could be. Now, Vince Neil recently said that the band will just be a touring entity forever. forever. They will just keep touring stadiums and arenas, and maybe they'll get down to state fairs, and then they'll do another farewell tour, and they'll get right back into the arenas and stadiums, and then they'll, break up and then reunite and break up. They'll just keep doing this for a while, perhaps. They only have so many years left. They're not exactly young guys, but having some fresh blood in there, like John 5, will help them keep going. So, with all that being said, recently, John 5 and Nikki Sixx have both released things on social media implying that new music is being worked on. They have talked about new riffs, they've posted photos, they've went to Chuck E. Cheese together. They've been doing so many things that naturally lead into rock and roll. So it seems like there's at least an idea of new Motley Crue music right around the corner, perhaps. And really that does make sense with having John 5 in the band. Of course, we do all miss Mick Mars, but John 5 is still a relevant musician. He still makes new music himself all the time on his solo career, and he's worked with so many people. So having someone that's such a seasoned writer in your band, it's gonna make you want to put out new music. He's worked with everybody. If you want to get technical, he's worked with a lot more musicians than any of the guys in Motley Crue have, so he knows how to adapt that style and really work and write and play and produce music that really works on so many levels, from Rod Stewart to Marilyn Manson to Paul Stanley to Motley Crue. But the question still remains, should Motley Crue make new music? And I don't know, man. I don't know, because as much as I did like the Saints of Los Angeles record, and even though that's their newest studio album, I don't really know why I put that in quotation marks. It is the newest, it's not new anymore. It's not that far away from being 20 years old. How old does that make you feel, by the way? But I don't know. I really don't, because those tracks on the Dirt soundtrack weren't great. They weren't great. They weren't anything to write home about. And I feel we would get more of the same as a full-length record. Now, if they put out some scattered singles here and there, there's not much to be mad about there, and it's less investment for them. There's less reason to be mad. You can just say, oh, these scattered 3 or 4 songs weren't great. And if they are great, that's awesome too. That's amazing. Why would you be mad at that? And really the singles route seems like a better idea for a band like this, because they could put out a new single before every subsequent arena and stadium tour and farewell tour and reunion tour that they do from here, right? But a full record, I don't know, unless they had a real reason, and maybe John 5 being in the band and being buddy-buddy with Nikki is the reason. Maybe that's the reason for the season, and we all know they can make Vince sound okay in a studio. We know that Tommy can still play drums, whether he really wants to put this new music out or not, because let's be real, that's another thing to bring up on the whole idea of should they make new music. Well, Nikki Sixx has been trying to spin the narrative for years that they're a new relevant band. We brought that up just a second ago, but he really wants you to think that Motley Crue is a 20-year-old rock and roll band. And I don't mean 20 years old, I mean that they are all 20-year-olds themselves still, even though John's the youngest guy and he's nowhere near that. But the point is, Nikki wants to put out new music, it seems, and John 5 is certainly capable. I'm sure he would be very excited to be on a proper Motley Crue release. I think he would do it in a second. It wouldn't even be a question for him. But then you have the 2 other elephants in the room. Tommy Lee doesn't care about this music anymore. He just doesn't. He's of course not bringing that up now because he's in the band. Again, he's making some money. He might be on the way out though, who knows? And Vince, on the other hand, whatever. Give him a natty light, the guy's happy. He'll sing whatever, and they'll fix it all in the studio, and that'll be that. But that's another thing you really have to think about. Should this music exist if the guys aren't super into it that are making it? Well, in this situation, at least 2 of the guys are very into it, and 1 is passively into it. So really, if you could just have someone else worry about the drums, you would have a band that was truly committed to putting something great out. But I don't know that they could for a full-length record. A couple singles again here and there, that'd be fine. And I think it would be great if you did feature some modern artists on these releases. Maybe not Machine Gun Kelly, but someone of that caliber. We've already had him on a release, and like I said, I think that was a weirdly good move to try to make this band somewhat appeal to a younger demographic. But let's be real, again, despite Nikki wanting you to believe this is a band that every 13-year-old out there loves, that's not their demographics at all. So I say feature some people from some more rock and roll type of bands. Joe Elliott was just on a Ghost track. Could you imagine Tobias being on a Motley track? That would be awesome. The last Ghost record sounded like a hair metal record, and I mean that in the most positive way possible. That would be great. I know that they have fought with the members of Steel Panther publicly, but what a great surprise it would be to have some of the Steel Panther guys on a track with Motley Crue. It would make all the sense in the world. And what if you went completely in left field and got like the singer from Twin Temple or something? That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. That girl is a ridiculous singer. She would make Vince feel a little sad probably being around her, but that's okay. It would be a great track perhaps. So I think there's a lot of options and a lot of ways for Motley to stay semi-relevant-ish, at least as relevant as you can be being a classic rock band that's been around as long as they have, but I don't know that a full-length record is the best move at this point in their careers. But what do I know? I'm not headlining stadiums around the world. I'm not playing to tens of thousands of millions of billions of boomers around the world. I don't know anything. Don't take my opinion as fact, but it is my opinion. And I really care about all of your opinions out there as well. So with all of this being said, what do you think? Should Motley put out new music? Should they continue to tour? Should they dry up and just not be a band altogether? Let me know all of that and more in the comments below. And if this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, give this video a thumbs up. It would help me out so much. Once again, my name is Kimchi Chris. This has been Rock Bliss with Kimchi Chris, and I will see all of you on the next episode.